love
is
the
Monday
Monday? Don't you love the Mondays?
most of the time, Monday after a holiday. So still
It is. It is.
trying to get awake.
You must have had a big holiday then.
Um, no, we actually didn't. We stayed quiet and stayed here and just kind of vegged out and worked on the computer, and we didn't do a whole lot. So it was kind of quiet.
Well, man, you ought
So
to
I
be
probably
well
shouldn't be too
rested.
tired.
You
Huh?
should be well
Yeah,
rested.
I should be.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, you've got a topic for us this morning. What is our topic today?
So our topic this morning is implementation. We have talked about awareness, we have talked about commitment, and then learning, and now comes the implementation part. That is step 4 of the 6 steps of personal development. And what that consists of is, you've got the plan, now you've got to put it to work. You got to take action to those things that you've committed to do.
So, is this one of your favorite parts of the personal growth process?
Um, sure.
Okay, I don't. I'm not buying it. Why is this a struggle
No,
for you?
this is this is the hard part, I think. I don't know. They all have their hard parts and their easy parts to them. Um, implementing, especially, I think the hardest part of it is, you kick off really good because you're ready to go. You're motivated, you're ready to go. And then sometimes after a little while it just kind of it fades out a little bit if you don't like stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and here I bring up uh
Bring up what? You're stalling.
sorry, David just sent an email that or a text that he's not getting in, so I'm not
I
sure.
will take care of that. You just talk about what the struggles of getting implemented.
It's getting the kickoff is really easy. It's the consistency of it. And you know, I bring back exercise as an example, you know, when you first really decide, okay, this is it, I'm doing this, and you go for a couple weeks and even a few days and everything's great. And then about that fourth or fifth day, your muscles are sore and you're tired and you're not wanting to get up again. And that's when you have to push yourself. So putting into action all of this stuff is is very easy. It's the consistency that comes with it that gets to be the difficult part.
So, Rebecca, if you think about the consistency, there's several things that lead up to that, right? When you start thinking about, being consistent, you want to be consistent doing the right things, right?
Right.
If you're consistent but you're doing the wrong things, think about that struggle, right? Now you're sitting there and you're spinning your wheels and you're consistently doing things that are not getting you results. So when you think about that, that is not a fun place to be. So we have to ask ourselves, are we consistently doing the right things? How do you know that you're doing the right things when you're in this space of implementation? You know you're getting the right outcomes.
I guess what you would scale that on is if you're moving forward, if you're progressing forward, if you're growing forward and not just staying stagnant or falling behind. So I think that's how, I mean, you have to be able to gauge it on something, and here again, I'm going to go back to exercise, even if you're just getting up and, and walking for 10 minutes a day, something that you haven't done before. It is progressing forward. you're making those changes. So
Mhm.
I think that's what you can uh focus it on. You
Yeah.
can use that as your measure tool.
So let's go back. Let's go back and review these initial steps. The first step is awareness, right? What are we aware of that needs to change, that needs to improve, that needs to grow? What is it that we're aware of? Step number one. Once we identify what it is that needs to be done, or needs to change, or needs to improve, or even a goal that needs to be set, right? Once we identify or needs to be achieved, once we identify that through awareness, then we make a commitment to it. This again is something that is sometimes missed. We will become aware and then we'll go learn something or we'll do this, we'll do that, but then we miss the commitment, right? We miss the commitment. We don't stay committed. When you establish commitment to yourself, you're putting something down in writing, you're setting a date to it, you're putting a system in place that holds yourself accountable, holds yourself committed to an outcome, a change, right? This third step is that learning phase. When you go in, I'm committed, I'm learning now. What do I need to learn specifically to properly implement? See, now when you're building that up, and if you're thinking as you're building it, that you're going to implement to move forward and upward. That's the thing you want to think about, forward and upward. And in order to do that, it's a very specific thinking process that you're bringing into your mindset so that you can do the right things to move forward and upward. You're learning the right things. You're committed to the right things because all too often we want to take the easy route, not the right route. And if we take the easy route, we're going to miss all the beauty. We're going to miss the greatness of the outcome. We're going to miss so many of the components. When you take the right route, that's going to give you the right outcomes that you're implementing. And that's part of what we have to really think about is what's the right thing to implement. When you start a business, for example, when you're brand new in business and you're just getting started and you're ready to get things going and you're rolling right out of the gate, one of the things you have to be able to do is create income, right? It's one of the reasons why what we talk about in the 3I Life business, influence, impact, and income. You can't survive in business if you don't have cash flow. Cash flow is your fuel. All the other business elements are part of your structure, part of your vehicle, but you have to have fuel to move your vehicle. So one of the very first things you have to do is only those things that are going to get cash flow into your company. You've got to get the cash flow in. And if it's not generating cash flow, then you have to go back. What am I aware of? What am I committed to? What am I changing? What am I going to do different? And boom, what am I going to learn? Because you've got to change it if you're not creating cash flow. And that's part of what
Right.
we have to get into our mindsets. And that is part of, and some of it you may not know right out of the gate. If you're focused on selling but your sales are not getting the impact and you're not getting the income from your sales and your sales processes are not getting committed, then change your sales process, change the approach, change the way you're going about things, because you have to go back, become aware, start the system over again. You just can't stop. That's the biggest struggle. Don't stop. Don't quit. And that's the hard part here when you get to implementation is you'll either become stagnant or you'll quit, or it gets hard and you'll quit. This is where oftentimes people get hung up. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a struggle, but yet it doesn't have to be when you understand that all of these are just steps. These are processing steps that you have to go through. And to be quite honest, one of the things that we should probably dive into on a down the road session of Monday Mind Shift is how much of this starts with our thinking. It starts with how we think. It starts with our personal belief systems. It starts with this thing internally that we call, we call a paradigm. We call a subconscious belief system that is so ingrained in us that it causes us to react or think or do things in such a way that we oftentimes don't even realize it. We have to be able to think and draw up those belief systems, challenge them, and be able to look at them and say, I need to change this. I've been believing something that is not best for me. I've been believing something that's not best for society, that's not best for community. I'm believing something that needs to be improved. And that's where a lot of this starts, is right inside the core of the human being, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And one thing about it is when you start here comes another challenge with implementing is sometimes when you start implementing, you come to find out that you needed to implement something before that to get to this part. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to go back and go, okay, well, for me to do this, I want to implement this, but for me to do this, I need to take two steps back and implement this first before I implement that. And I think that goes back to you know, step one, awareness, when you become aware
Mm-hmm.
that there's something different that you needed to do before you start implementing a lot of these.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do because, just like we've talked about before, especially with entrepreneurs that are just starting business, one of their biggest focuses, what do they focus on? They got to make money, they got to bring in income to get their business up and running. So there are some critical administrative things that need to be done with that also, but sometimes we don't look at that until later. We'll get this later. We'll do this later. Well, later comes along and it's like, oh man, I should have had that done. And so we got to go back and do it again. And
Yeah.
it's a little more difficult after you've been in business for a couple years and there's a lot of things that you haven't implemented yet.
Well, so
So
this
becoming
brings up a great point on say our coaching clients. One of the things that you have just recently created. Tell everybody what you've created for our coaching clients, for ourselves, our own business. Tell everyone what you've been working on.
Well, I kind of put together, I mean, there's a couple of things. One of them is an action items list. And you implement or you inject your action item that you need to get done. It has a priority. You decide if it's low, medium, or high. Um, then is it in progress? Is it on hold? Is it almost completed? Is it done? And then a date, because I think it's important when we do implement things is to put a date to it. Because if we say, well, yeah, we need to do this eventually, that's not something that becomes forefront. But I also go back, it's your statements, it's your values, it's your mission statement and your personal statement
Mm-hmm.
and things that go with it and things that we don't really focus on as we're building business. We know in our mind what we want our business to be and what we want to do with it, but I think it really makes a difference putting it down on a piece of paper, something that you can see and you can remember and you can, when there's days of struggle, you can look back on it and go, this is why I wanted to do this. There's a reason I wanted to do this. And it helps. But then there's also your personal, professional, and financial goals. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? And and then once you figure out where and why, you figure out how you've got to get there and the things that you got to do. So if you want to be at a certain point in your life in 10 years, what do I have to do this year to get me to where I want to be in 10 years? So those are three things that I've been strictly trying to implement with our coaching clients and the action steps. The one thing about it is watching the progress on it. Um, I don't know. Most everybody knows I'm a lister. I make lists and trying to keep track of everything. Sometimes if we just talk about it in our head, we forget to make note of it. And then a week later, it's like, oh man, I was supposed to do that this week. And so the action items can kind of see where we've started and where we're going and what we're working on. So those are the three biggest things that I've been working on with our coaching clients, and it's probably something that we should have started a while ago. But same thing with us, we're always implementing and changing in our business, trying to get the best value for our clients. So,
Well, if you think about the PPFs, what we call personal, professional, financial goals, that's something that I first learned from John Maxwell years ago. And I mean, I don't know how many years it was, but it's been a long, long time ago. And that is one of the things that you want to use to set a vision, right? And cast a vision for yourself, for your business, for your future, for your career. Here several years ago, I spoke with a college and the topic was how to create your career, never justify your job, right? Create your career, never justify your job. And that was an interesting concept that was really built off of the PPFs, the personal, professional, financial goals. When you come out of college and you've got a degree from a college university or a trade school or whatever it is that you come out of training with, even if it's just a certificate, when you come out of that training, that's your foundation. That's like your starting point. Okay. That's not the ending point. That's your starting point. And you build off of that. That's one of the things that you have to really remember is you're entering now at the foundational level. How do you build on that? Well, it's understanding who you want to be professionally. Where do you want to go personally? What does it look like for your business? What kind of financial goals do you want to have for your family, for your business, for your future? Because those financial goals, again, are the fuel that's going to help you grow and develop the things that you truly, truly want out of life. So it's casting that vision and setting something before you as a target that you can move towards and then begin to lay that out. What are the big steps? And then breaking that down into the small steps and to the daily action items that you have to achieve. It's not hard, but it's again understanding that it's a process. And if you break down the big vision into daily action items, that's the implementation stage. When you break it down
well,
into the daily action items, it will achieve your goals.
and like you mentioned earlier, it is a mindset thing. It
Absolutely.
is a mindset thing.
Yep.
And you have to know why you're going somewhere. You have to understand why you want that. You look at some of these college kids that they just go into college not understanding
Yeah.
why they want to go there, why they want to do what they want to do.
Hmm.
And it can be a detriment, but you have to understand why you want what you want.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about yesterday, you asked me the question if I could, how did you ask that? Think myself into success. Well, you can, but you also have to put the action behind it. You can't sit on the couch and go, "Man, I'm going to be successful," and then stay sitting on the couch. You have to put the action in behind it.
Hmm.
And it is work, and it's very rewarding work. And you talked about sometimes it's not, you can't do the easy route. Well, I think when you're doing the things that you need to be doing, it does get easier. It does get less stressful. It does get, um, not to say that you're not going to have some things that you have to pivot on, or roadblocks, or things that you go through, but I do think it gets easier when you're doing the things that you need to be doing to grow
Well, the thing is,
yourself.
yeah, you're right, Rebecca. There's going to be easy paths. There's going to be times when the walk is easy. If you climb a mountain there's times when you've got to walk sideways before you can get to the next part of the climb. And that's an easier walk. It's easier to maneuver. It's not as painful. It doesn't drain you as hard. There are going to be easy paths in the journey to success. However, the thing that you want to remember is during those times where it's getting easy, that's when you're preparing, you're recharging, you're thinking into the next phase, because getting to the top is not easy overall, but you will have times where it's easy. And you're going to have times when you want to reevaluate, which we'll talk about next week. But you want to evaluate what you're doing so that you can prepare yourself for the next climb. And that's a big part of accepting that this is life, right? I had a guy tell me here a while back. He says, I don't set 10-year goals. I don't set a long-term goal. I'm like, why not? He goes, well, because the world is changing so fast. Technology is changing so fast. Everything is changing so fast that you just can't do it. And I said, well, can I challenge you to that? He goes, yeah, sure. I said, well, here's the thing. You're thinking about the who you are as what you do. You're thinking about what you're going to be doing in 10 years. I want to know who you are in 10 years. I want to know what kind of character you're developing. I want to know what kind of vision for greatness you have in your mindset. Are you running something big, or is it still you doing nothing more than just you being a solopreneur, right? In 10 years, who are you? Are you leading a large team? Is your kids all graduated and they're off doing their own things? Who are you at that level? When you're, regardless of the technology that comes, who are you running and managing the technology? Are you somebody of great character that has a great mindset, skill set, and going to be able to take on anything that comes? Or are you going to sit back and say, that's not how I do things? What, who are you? Who are you in that 10-year time frame? Because that's what you've got to think about developing. You've got to develop this. That's why we have personal growth and development. Personal development is taking this person and preparing it for that stage of life, regardless of what it is. So you have to set some kind of a target out there. You have to set some kind of a goal out there. And I would challenge us all. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do have full control over who we are, regardless of what happens. And that's what we have to think about. When we target that person in the future, it allows you to start doing the right things to become the right person to achieve whatever we can even dream of in that long term vision. You and I have big goals for our company, and some of those goals involve a lot of other people. Well, here's what I know about that. If our goals are going to involve a lot of other people, leadership, team building, those types of things, I have to develop here now. Because to achieve them in 10 years, if I don't develop those skills now, they won't exist in 10 years. And I will not be able to achieve a large team in 10 years. That'll be impossible. So it has to be done now in order to be revealed later. And
Yeah.
that's a big part of this personal, professional, and financial goals. It's all about who you are. It's not about what you do. That makes sense?
Yep.
And that's why
Oh,
we get things so mixed up sometimes, because we live in a world that's all about doing, 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 doing. You go to college, you learn the hard skills. But the hardest skills to learn are the soft skills, which are people development, team building, the growth and elements of that nature.
one part of this inflammation that I want to make note of before we start to wrap up here is, sometimes when we begin implementing, it may take a while before we see the fruits of that. It may take, it's not going to happen immediately, and it may take a while, but the key is to keep going.
Yep.
The key is to keep trying.
Hmm.
We've had a lot of bumps and bruises and detours and rocky hills, doing our business in the last 4 years. But the key is to keep going and keep trying and getting past it, figuring out what you need to change, becoming aware of the things, making the commitment to do it, and keep going.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I'm reading a book right now. Have been reading a book for the last several months. I've mentioned it on here a couple of times before. Psycho-cybernetics, and I know that kind of just the name of it kind of scares people, but it has to do everything with the way we think. It has to do with how we think, and it has to do with how we think at a subconscious level, and the beliefs and self-image that we carry with ourselves every single day. Your self-image is going to portray your future. It is. If you don't see yourself as a person worthy of anything that you can put into your vision. Here's what I believe about a vision. Here's what I believe about what you can think about. There's a concept that we teach our entrepreneurs around inspiration in spirit. And I truly don't believe that you will have the ability to think of something, to be inspired to do something, unless you can be equipped to do it. I truly believe that. And I believe that God has created everybody uniquely different. And I believe that God has created everybody with a purpose. You know, we're created on purpose for a purpose. And if you can envision something in your future, and it's something that brings value to people, it grows people, it brings community, it brings something healthy and high quality to your community. If you can do that, I believe a big share of that comes from inspiration. It comes from in spirit. And that's where we have to understand that it's not always about us. It's not always about us. It's going to be about what we are called to do for someone else. And so much of that begins with how we see ourselves in the mirror, that self image, and how we think about that person, how we think about that individual that's achieving those goals, that's living in that time of inspiration. And you have to see yourself in the right light. And that is a big part of how you think. Because if that part's not right, your thinking won't be right. And
right.
that's a massive struggle, I know, for a lot of people.
Yep, it is. It is all, there again, you said it's a mindset, it's a belief.
Yeah,
What do you believe?
yeah, it really is. So, well, anyway, Rebecca, let's wrap this up. Next week we
Okay.
got the next phase, which is
Evaluate.
evaluation, and this again. I mean, we're going through these so fast. We're not giving either any one of these steps good full credit. But evaluation, after you implement something, you want to be able to evaluate it. You want to be able to look back at it and go, is what I did the right thing to do? You know, is the study that I'm studying, are the things that I'm studying right now the right things to study to become the person that I need to become? You know, am I becoming the person that my future requires?
Yep.
And that is something that is so vital. It's so necessary for everything that we do in life. So this implementation stage, guys, is extremely important. And next week's stage is extremely important so that you can evaluate your implementation, raise your awareness. That's the whole purpose of it. Raise your awareness to a new height. And then you'll find out the following week is repeat, which is just repeating the system and starting over and continuous growth. Growth never stops. It just keeps on going. So those are the things you want to be able to bring to your life. So
Yep.
that's next week. But all
Yeah.
right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here. Thank you to our Facebook group. I did get another message that we're still having trouble with our Zoom links. We will take care of that. We will get one link in there for the next 12 months, and we'll make sure everybody gets the same link for the next 12 months. So we will make sure that gets fixed here directly. Not sure what is happening, but we'll get it fixed. All right. God
Okay.
bless everybody.
Bye.
See ya.